All right, boys, we are going to get into
a mini segment.
A mini segment, which is classic albums that we've never listened to or given the time of day. Right? That's the gist of it.
Yep.
Who's first?
Yeah. We're each going to do one, right? We're going to, because Tuan and I, before we came on tonight, kind of talked a little bit about, we each had one that, we'll save for another time, which we'll explain at the end, but one each, right?
Yeah, one of many. I probably have a lot, actually, considering all the recommendations
me
that I've
too.
had just on this podcast.
Not all of them are classics. They're just ones that we like. Classic albums are like albums that were maybe widely considered to be, big, commercially successful, critically acclaimed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'll lead off. We did a post about the Black Album, Metallica.
Yep. A
couple weeks back. I know the singles. I have never listened to that album.
Holy shit! Hot take. Wow.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Never. I mean, I know the singles, and I can say that about a lot of Metallica records. But like I know Enter Sandman. I know it's. I know who Metallica is. They are obviously very, very, very well known as a band. We've talked about them numerous times on this podcast, fairly recently as well. But yeah, I know Enter Sandman, the Sabbatrue, the Unforgiven, Wherever I May Roam. Like I know the songs
Nothing
that were played
for sure.
everywhere. Yeah. Yep. But I've never listened to it front to back. And that's probably it's obviously a fault of mine. And I like Metallica less than you guys do probably, but I don't dislike the band. It's not like I'm anti-Metallica or what they stand for, but I mean Lars can be a dick, but it is what it is. But yeah, never listened to that record front to back, and I will now because we're talking about it, and I'll probably get shamed into it. But yeah, that's a classic album that just turned 30 the other day.
Yeah.
We posted about it. 30 years old. I have only heard the singles. Sorry guys. Sorry world.
Well, when you said Lars is a douche, so I have to ask: is that part of the reason? Do you think? Because obviously we all grew up in the era of Lars Ulrich suing Napster, and so many of our age group were like, yeah, fuck Metallica, in a time where it was probably the time to get into Metallica as a, 15, 16-year-old.
True.
Do you think that's part of it? Or
that's a great point. And honestly, he probably gets a bad rap. Like he is seeing this world where his music is being ripped off from him and they're seeing no money for it, when people could be out buying the record at their record stores, CD stores, whatever, and people are like you and me are downloading, Enter Sandman for our football CD mix in 2000, and he's like, "Fuck, what the fuck? These kids are stealing money from me." I get it. I see that side of it from him, but he did get painted as kind of a dick, and that's how we ended up here. But yeah, that might have been part of it. It could have been, but I listened to him before that. I don't dislike the band. It's never been I don't like Metallica, so fuck that record. But that could be a little piece subliminally.
So I'm going to quick tangent here and bring it back home for us. Say we only released our podcast behind a paywall, but we knew there was a pocket of people that were getting their hands on it. Would we care? For free? Would we care?
I don't think so, but that's a hard question to ask because we're part of that generation, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
yeah. I would want to know why they were doing it that way, and if they cared that much, why wouldn't they want to be part of the paywall ecosystem? But at the same time, this is a labor of love. Like we've made $0 on this because we love doing it. So
we've made negative.
I'd probably be like, cool, more people. Yeah, we're in the hole. We're in the red a little bit, guys. So if you want to hit us up, I'll make the Patreon at some point. But we have go on Good Pods, right? Well, you could tip us on goodpods.hk at Good Pods, I think is the Twitter. But yeah, if you listen to podcasts through that, if you're listening to us on Good Pods, leave us a tip.
I was a late bloomer to this album, which I guess in the context of like my age, I wasn't. But it's interesting. I bought And Justice for All and the Black Album on tape in the mid 2000s, and I know that because Nate, when you lived in Portland, I was using my mom's minivan for years, for a few years, like in college when I was home.
Yep.
After the Hog,
after the Ford Escort. This was a Dodge Caravan, and it had a tape player in it, and I would play And Justice for All and the Black Album, and those are the two albums that I really know. Like for this segment, I could probably throw Master of Puppets on as like a classic that I've given some time, but not a true front to back listen. Like, I know songs, but yeah, I think this is great. I mean, it's often referred to as their like sellout album, whatever, but I mean, it's just great. I guess if you compared it to the first album, you know, Enter Sandman's more of a poppy song, whatever. If that's your thought, I think it's a fantastic album. It's definitely worth a front to back listen. You probably heard half the songs anyway.
True. But, I mean, damn. How did I get away with not ever listening to that record?
I know, still is the real thing, like up until this point. Yeah, for me, like, I mean, for full disclosure, I was part of that list that got banned on Napster. So I got kicked off Napster from Lars. So that sucked.
Wait a second. Explain yourself. You got kicked off of Napster? How do you get kicked off of Napster?
I got banned from
Shadow banned?
I guess. I got banned from Lars on Napster, or from Metallica's management.
Did Lars send you a cease and desist?
No, how it worked is basically your membership to Napster essentially just froze. Like, you couldn't download anything anymore. So the trick was to download things misspelled, and you were able to kind of get away with it that way. So Metallica could be spelled with like numbers and stuff like that, but you couldn't actually search for the actual song correctly, which is really unique. But yeah, so that's why I asked you that question earlier, because I had a chip on my shoulder about that too. But because I saw Metallica at Woodstock and again at Summer Sanitarium, seeing them live, I became a fan almost because I saw them live. So I collected all their albums. My brother actually bought me Kill 'Em All as my first album from Metallica.
Nice.
But had it not been to seeing them live, I probably would have been in your boat, subliminally, like you said, pissed at Lars, like, fuck these guys. But because I saw them live, I became a full-on fan and listened to this album and all their albums and become, you know, a huge fan of the band, still am today. And like you said, that Black Album, I guess you're right, Twan, is kind of considered their sellout album, but man, it's a fucking bona fide, great front to back album. So the live transition for me is always why I become a fan. It's like, all right, press, whatever the connotation of the album is or whatever, or the band or the band members, seeing the band live is what kind of makes me go from casual to full on fan. So that's why I was able to grasp them despite being literally banned from the peer-to-peer network back in 99.
That's amazing.
Sean Parker shows up at your house, rapping on your door.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, as we say, you get nerd homework.
I do.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the best part. Is this segment lends itself to nerd homework every time.
Every time.
Can I go next?
Yeah, go for it.
So I'm going to expose myself a little bit. And I think, like, in the grand scheme of music, it's not like a big exposure, but I think for you guys, you'll probably be surprised. I've heard 2 songs in my life by this band, and those 2 songs are Race for the Prize and Do You Realize?
Oh, wow.
Do you know the band?
Flaming Lips?
Yes, Flaming Lips. Yep.
So I'm going to put it to vote. Are we going to talk about Soft Bulletin or Yoshimi right now?
Oh man, Yoshimi. I hope.
Nate, you pick. What's your vote?
Yeah, Yoshimi as well.
Okay. So I've only heard Do You Realize? I've heard 2 songs by this band. It's a house band for you guys.
Yeah.
It's not that I never got it. Like, it wasn't even that. It was like, this band's cool. I just never took that step. I never took it. So, like, sell them to me. Give me an elevator pitch. Sell Flame, and we'll probably do this as a segment at some point, but like,
Hamster Ball, bro. Hamster
sell
Ball.
Yoshimi battles the Pink Robots to me.
Fight Test, great song. Twan, remember the show 3 South on MTV2?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? You've heard 2 songs off this record because their theme song was Fight Test by the Flaming Lips.
No way. I didn't.
Yes, sir.
How didn't I know?
There's a nerd tidbit for all you.
What the
all
fuck
you
is
people
3
out there.
South?
Yeah, 3 South was a short-lived animated series on MTV or MTV2 in the 2002 range, and we stumbled upon it jokingly as seniors in high school and thought it was stupid and funny, and it was both stupid and funny. And yeah, their theme song was "Fight Test" by Flaming Lips.
So I've heard 3 songs. And Fight Test was off Yoshimi or no?
Yep, first song on the record. Do you want me to give the pitch, Nate? I'll give the pitch. So
Sure.
I liked this record before I saw them live, and like Nate says, seeing a great band live do their thing and like crush it makes you want to listen to more of them and find out more about them. This is what happened to me. I liked some stuff. I'd heard Do You Realize? I'd heard Fight Test. I'd heard a couple other songs by them over the years. and then saw them live about 10 years ago with Nate and our episode 17 guest Rob down in Boston, and got to meet them, and they were really cool, which also helped. And they just put on a fucking amazing show. They opened the show with Wayne getting in a hamster ball and riding out on top of people and just like riding around the crowd in this hamster ball and like going from one spot and like standing up. And I mean, go to our YouTube page. There is a video of him over the top of me and my brother at the State Theater doing the hands up in the air, place going crazy, just from that's what they do live. So that helped certainly. But that record, In the Morning, The Magicians, Nate, that song's fucking awesome.
Yep.
Oh, do you realize it's great live? I mean, they drop confetti and balloons, and it's having seen them live obviously changes the perspective of the band. They put on such an epic show. Man, yeah. Go ahead, Nate. What do you got?
Yeah, Selling Point. It's a good way to kind of texturize the album because it is definitely something that you have to embrace, almost like a full-on deathcore metal album. You're gonna be going on a full-on trip. And when I first saw the album cover, I was already kind of perplexed by the artwork.
I could see that.
Right. I definitely didn't seek out this band on my own. It was introduced to me by people that were into that kind of trippy, like Ween and Flaming Lips and that whole scene, which I wasn't into. So I was like, what is this? I don't get it. I'm not that kind of person. I don't trip on acid every day. Like, that's just not my thing. They did roll through Portland. I didn't make the show, but the album was handed to me in case I did make it to the gig as almost like a preparation. I was like, all right, I'll check it out. So I threw it on and listened to it front to back, which is, on a CD, you can do that, right? Kind of like a vinyl record. This is circa 2002, I think it was. So this album had just dropped. The show was at the State Theater, and I didn't make it to the show, unfortunately, at the time. But I really liked the album a lot, and it was really captured me at the moment, just because it was like a completely different genre, kind of like some of the music that you've brought to the table on this podcast, Anthony. Like, wow, I don't know this, but I think I like it. Like, I think this is something I can get into, and it's not even like a scene I ever thought I would fully understand, and definitely don't identify with it. If I have to say it in a way of like, I wear this kind of t-shirt, not that kind of t-shirt. But I loved it. I fell in love with the band as soon as I spun that record, and have been a fan ever since. Seeing them, like you said, Twan, definitely changed my fandom from like base level to like huge fan. And really because of Wayne, the singer, is a huge music fan. And the way he talks about music, I really like kind of leveled with him on, which is like, music is this experience. It's this way of life. It's this appreciation. It's a way to really be happy about everything and every moment of every day, because life's beautiful, and music is an expression of how fortunate we are to be alive. And I was like, oh man, I've always been very keen on expression, especially in a positive manner. And that was like something I really identified with at the time. And I was like, oh god damn, this is sweet. Even if I'm not, tripping balls while I'm listening to this music, it was just something like, all right, this is cool. Like, it's a different way to express happiness and expression. So yeah, to sell it basically it's a whole different element. It's a very psychedelic type, weird, super strange type trip that you're on. Basically, you feel like you're kind of on drugs listening to the music, to be completely transparent. But been a fan ever since. Great live show.
Great live show.
But basically, it's a different realm. Like, you're like, okay, I'm going to listen to a death metal album, or am I going to listen to this full on psychedelic rock album? But it's beautiful music, and it's just not your normal rock and roll album. It's basically a concept album.
There's nobody like them.
Yeah.
There's nobody like them. A quick little tangent. We talked about that show. We saw him in Boston. I think it was the second time I had seen him. I think Nate probably second or third for you as well. Mm. We had bought Rob, our buddy, tickets for his birthday in July of, I don't know, 2011, I think. And we get to the show, and Rob had like pulled a couple strings and was like, oh man, like they hooked us up with better seats. So we sold the tickets we bought for Rob out front of the show. And then we're like talking to some people, and Rob's like, all right, they said to kind of go over to the right side of the stage. This is early before the opener had even gone on. They're like, go hang out over there. And then we are hanging out there, and then the drummer of the band comes out and just says, hey, yeah, come on back, guys.
Nice.
We go out back. We hang out with the whole band. We're sitting in the dressing room that they're hanging out in. And Wayne's like, yeah, oh, you guys are from Portland? We're playing there in October. This is July, and we're like, you are? Like it hadn't been it hadn't been announced yet.
Nice.
Yeah.
He broke news to us that they were playing the State Theater in October of that same year, and I was like, well, we'll fucking be there. So that was such a cool nerd moment that like the band broke news to us backstage at the show we were there to see them at that they were playing our hometown 4 months later. It was pretty wild.
I was so bummed too because I was moving that.
Yeah, you
fall.
moved. Yeah.
It's like fuck. Yeah.
Well, I got some homework, and I was going back and forth between Soft Bulletin and Yoshimi because I know Yoshimi was like the more quote unquote commercial success album, but if you look at their albums ranked by all critics, whatever, Soft Bulletin is the top one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So-
that's that's the one that put them on the map, right? That's why. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that album is basically like Queens of the Stone Age, Songs for the Deaf. Like they had stuff before that, but that was like, and I think they dropped, same year, 2002. It was basically like their mainstream success, even though they're both not really mainstream albums at all.
True.
Songs for the Deaf and Yoshimi are not anything close to something you'd put on the radio, but they both made it.
And they've been a band for years and years.
Long time. Yeah.
Since the
Before
80s, yeah.
Yeah. Late 80s. Yep. Good pick,
Yeah.
Twan. Good pick.
Yeah, legacy band. Yeah, you have some nerd homework as
I
well.
feel like that's a like late night when you're walking the dog, just like soaking in like,
Yep.
I don't know, the trees and the sky, and just like soaking it all
Yeah.
in.
Try to like connect with nature a little bit
Yeah.
in one way or another. Whether you do it legally or not, that's up to you.
Right.
No, it's the best kind of music.
Well, I mean, look at the album cover. It's like something's
Yeah.
trippy
Oh, yeah.
going
Yeah.
on there.
Yeah.
Oh, the artwork's so classic. Yeah, man, good call. I have to actually say one thing based on that show in Boston. Tone is that's actually what I was saying earlier with Thompson's Point. I feel like the Bank of America Pavilion. I don't know what it's called now. That's the stages that Thompson's Point's eventually going to get to because they get winter too, but that venue is stationary. The stage is built out. So
Yep. Big
So,
tent too, so it can rain. You can still have the show. Yep.
Yeah, so I think that's where it's going, which is exciting for Portland. Makes it a major market. But anyways, that's a little sidebar.
That's a callback
tangent.
to episode 78 earlier this episode. Just if you were wondering.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, a little
All
nerd.
right, Nate, you're stalling. What's your classic album that you've never listened to?
Take us home.
All
Let's
right.
wrap this bad boy.
You guys are gonna be surprised. It's Kid Rock Cocky. No, I'm just kidding.
I thought you were gonna say Saliva for a second. But...
Kid Rock Cocky is the new Saliva. No, mine is surprising even for myself because I love this type of music. It's Massive Attack Mezzanine, I think that's how you say it.
Yep.
I know the one single and that's it. And every time
too.
I hear that single, I'm like, I'm gonna fucking play this album. And I actually almost saw them. I think it was like 2 months before the pandemic, like put everything in lockdown. They were playing this album front to back, like 4 shows in a row in San Diego. I'm like, I know that one song, and sometimes I do this. I know that one song. I'm going to see the show because that's their classic album, and it's probably going to get me into the band.
Yep.
Show got canceled because of COVID, and still haven't listened to it. And just that single, I'm like, I love this type of music. Why the fuck haven't I listened to this album? And it's ranked one of the best albums of all time, and it came out in the 90s. So it's a 90s OG. But for whatever reason, it's on that to-do list and just hasn't been spun. Have you guys checked this out?
I know the one song, and now I'm looking it up because I can tell you an anecdote about the one song, which you probably also know.
Yeah.
It was on a very popular TV show on Fox for quite some time as the theme song. What's the name of the song, Nate?
That's even worse. I know the single by hearing it, but I don't know by name.
Rising Sun.
I think that is it.
Yeah. So the show was the show House.
Oh yeah.
Remember
Yeah.
that show on Fox?
Yeah.
It was about Hugh Laurie. He was a doctor. He took on crazy cases. They used the song Teardrop, which is I think the song you're talking about, Nate, as their theme song for the majority of the show. A couple of different versions of it, but yeah, it was that song that I went and looked that up because of it, and I was like, oh, that's a banger of a song to like open a show.
Yeah.
And like, and that happens to me a lot. Like I'll be watching TV with my wife, and a song will happen like in the background. I'm like, oh damn, that's an album or a artist that I should know. I'm checking it out. I find out what it is and like download it, listen to it. And this is one of the first iterations of that for me. Like I needed to know who this was and who they were and like why this was a banger and who picked that. Like it always makes me think like somebody decided to put that on the intro. Like they're a music fan. I want to meet that person. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're people like us. So yeah, I only know that song though. So I'm with you. I don't know much else by them, but if there's more like that, it's probably worth peeping. You're right. It is a widely known record as probably their best record.
I know nothing about this band outside of the name, which I think everyone's probably heard of the name. I definitely seen the album cover. I would never have guessed Mezzanine was the album cover, but I just looked up the visual. I've definitely seen it, and I've probably seen it on like Rolling Stone top 500 albums, whatever list. I couldn't tell you what genre music. I mean, I can tell now because I just looked it up, but I couldn't have told you what genre music. Who, like, what world are they in? I almost feel like, are they in like a Blur or like who's in their realm? Portishead or something, bands like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah, this is homework. I know nothing about it. In fact, I'd have to look up Teardrop to see if I even know it.
I think
you'll
you would
know it. You'll know it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think it's been in multiple movies, and yeah, like you said, Tony, it just stands out and it kind of captures you. But for whatever reason, I just never listened to it. But I guess I'm not alone here. And timing always matters, right? It dropped on April 20th, 1998. So like we were young, we were kids, and it definitely wasn't like a mainstream band. Not that we were like,
we were listening to Limp Bizkit.
yeah, the Biscuit. Yeah, Biscuit got more attention. But that scene, like you had to look for it, I think, unless you were in Europe or something, or it's considered trip hop or electronica. I definitely was not into that scene, especially then. Even now, like I, seek certain things out, but for the most part, it's something I have to actually dig into. This album in particular. So I'm happy that I'm not alone here because I'd feel ashamed.
Huge following. Like I looked it up, almost 3 million monthly Spotify listeners.
Yep. Still crushing it.
So that tells me they're probably still active.
That's a good question. I don't know enough about them.
Yeah, I mean they got to be because the show here that got canceled. It was 4 shows back to back playing this album front to back. I'm like, oh fuck, dude, I'm like the one that's going for the single.
Yeah, but you probably would have ended up liking them and been like telling us all about them after the fact. So
Oh yeah, exactly.
there is something to be said for seeing a band live and being like converted by it. That definitely happens.
Yeah, it's the best way to be a bandwagon fan. It's like, all right, cool, I saw them live, so now I fully understand that. Or like I used to say on here, a live album. Like if you can't go to the show, you get a live album, you kind of get a greatest hits, and then also kind of a feel for what they're, I don't know, how they're acting or what they're trying to translate.